Hey everybody, it's Mark, DoctorDeadwax's, and we're back for day 42 of the Inbox Challenge. Today's numbers were picked by crapitoutjim, James. I always think of Warren Zevon when I hear or see crapitoutjim in the comments. It's, what is it? You better stay away from him. He's gonna crap it out, Jim. I'd like to meet his change nurse. Anyway, gonna say hi to Charlie Parker at the same time, too. The little cleaned up here, got the beard under control, haircut, not looking quite so homeless Jebediah anymore. Today's episode is brought to us by Cobblestone, Stout from Mill Street Brewery. I send them links to these videos every day. They're not commenting on them. There's no free case at the door. I don't know what's going on. Cheers, everybody. Alright, James picked 4 numbers. We're going to do all 4 records. First one is Twang Bar King, Adrian Belew. This came from, I got this for $1 from that collection I went and looked at. I showed this record on day 32. This is probably the most recent addition to the inbox that I'm showing. Gatefold. Comes on a early 80s Island label. What's interesting is the Island is in 2 different colors. It's orange on one side and yellow on the other. The little sun there. So Adrian Belew playing guitar for King Crimson by this period, or maybe that had just ended, that iteration of Crimson. But solo record. Rob was commenting when I found this that he likes I'm Down, Belew's cover of Lennon McCartney song. It's not my favorite track on the record, and I didn't really like it. I heard it before at a friend's house on his Monster system, but actually I kind of liked it a bit more this time when I heard it. It's got some interesting train sound effects that are kind of cool. Pretty good record. There's some great songs on here, and there's some songs that are just okay. You know, so it's a pretty good record. It's not a perfect 10 or anything like that, but I don't think anything Belew ever did is a perfect 10. It's too all over the place, but there are 3 or 4 songs on here that are just absolute gems. That's it. That's all I can say. I can recommend it. What does anybody else feel to me like Belew's vocals are like this close to David Byrne? Like if Talking Heads wanted to get back together and Byrne didn't want to sing in the band, he could fill that role if he could fit in the big suit and do the gangly arms. I don't know. Anyway, so that's that one. Good record. You know, I really enjoyed it. I just wish it was stronger overall. Next is a record I've already shown on the Inbox Challenge. But this is like a day for Paniques, isn't it? It's like we're just showing records Rob likes. Led Zeppelin, or Led Zeppelin 1 as it later became known as. Look at this pressing. Isn't this nice? Look at how clean this is. Nice condition. Look at that. Even more stunning is when you pull it out of the jacket. Yes, it's Canadian Red Atlantic, and it is gorgeous. That's for Dixieland Farm, because he says I say gorgeous more than most people, whereas he would use the word beautiful so that he can drag the B. Anyway, this is a super clean pressing of this record. There's like one little scratch on this. This is my cleanest Red Atlantic by far. And considering these are selling now, well, not selling, but crack addicts are asking $200 for like good pressings of them. This is very nice. I got this for free. I was over at a friend of mine's house for a listening session, and he was telling me that he had like 60 Led Zeppelin records. Because when he got back into vinyl, every time he saw a Zeppelin record that looked kind of okay, he bought it. So I said, let me have a look through them. So I looked through them and I told him which ones were good and which ones he should play. you know, throw that on. Throw these 5 on next time. And he said, do you want any? I said, well, I can't really take any. And he said, I said, this is one I want. He said, take it. So it was a gift. And it's gorgeous. It's VG plus. It's got one, the side one is just absolutely perfect, and side 2 has this little crackly 1-minute spot. Seems to be a bunch of stray scratches on it, but other than that, it's just super sweet. And it's got, you know, none to very, very, very minimal groove damage, so it wasn't played on some shitty needle for 20 years by drunken Lugans. And it is the best sounding pressing of this record I've ever heard in my life. So I finally have a copy of Zeppelin 1 that will just be mine forever. And it's true. I mean, if supposedly a better pressing is an ATGP 1971 reissue in the United States, ATGP George Piros, and that would be on the standard US Atlantic label. Supposedly that with MR for Monarch Records, they pressed it. Supposedly that is the go-to pressing of that record, but that pressing is fantastic. It has tons of bottom end, it has tons of middle, nice clean tops, really splashy and vibrant cymbals. The tabla on Black Mountain side, I have never heard the tabla like that in my life. It just kind of pongs, just this gorgeous tone to it. Really happy to find that. Finally, that's, you know, I've been chasing the dragon on for a Red Atlantic of that forever. I have a couple more in the inbox that I know are nowhere near that good. I just have them to have them and to see if there's a variation in dead wax. And that's RCA Smith Falls pressing for Warner Records, so, in Canada. Next is Spyro Gyra Carnival. And this is a 1980 pressing on MCA Records. This is MCA Canada. So just your standard MCA Cloud label. And look at this. This thing has the lovely last symbol on it, unfortunately. I absolutely hate records treated with last. But, you know, what can you do? I got this for a really good price. I think I paid $1 for it. I got this from a friend of mine who owns a store. He got this collection in, and from this guy who treated like everything with last. And this has Master Disc RL on one side, so that was the reason why it interested me. Let's see if I can get this to pop. At midnight, is it going to come? I don't think it's going to come into focus. At midnight, there's a logo for MCA Records, Gloversville, New York plant. Now, it's the square bracket, so it's an opening square bracket and a closed square bracket. Then it's the letter G, and it's an opening square bracket and a closed square bracket. So basically, it looks like a square, the letter G, and a square, and that means, if you see that on an MCA record, that means the plate was made at Gloversville. Now, this is a Canadian pressing, so this obviously wasn't pressed at Gloversville, but one plate definitely was made at Gloversville, and that's the plate with Master Disc on it. And then the plate with Master Disc RL on it, I don't know where that was made because that doesn't have the same mark, and everything I've seen made there has the same thing. So MCA had several, well, a couple other plants. If you see MCA and it's got the two triangles, like the greater than and less than sign, so it looks like two triangles, and then the letter P, and then the two sideways V's again, you know, greater than and less than signs. If you see that as opposed to the squares and the G, that means that's from the Pinckneyville, Indiana plant. That means it was made there. And then if you see a very rare dead wax marking would be an O, a dash, a C, a dash, and an O, and that would be for the Cornwall, Ontario plant. And that that is really uncommon to see plates that were actually cut in Canada at the Cornwall plant, because almost everything from MCA in Canada was either done in the late 80s at the Don Mills location, or anything before that, like all the Elton John records that were pressed at the Cornwall plant were all made from Gloversville, New York plates. So Spyro, Gyra, Carnival, it's a good sounding record, and with Ludwig plates, they're really good. It's you know, it's that jazz fusion sound that's getting very pop commercial, crossing into slightly smooth, but it still hasn't gone too far with this. So this is actually, it's actually a pretty damn good record, and it sounds excellent. So it's rather entertaining. And this comes with a lovely inner sleeve. And look at these guys, man. Look at these guys. The curly hair and the innocent eyes. These were nice boys when they were on the road. So that's the Spyro Gyra. So that was, anyways, that was a buck. And last, somebody's gonna ask me why I hate last, because I've brought it up. But first, the Led Zeppelin came with an original Atlantic Atco Cotillion custom labels inner sleeve that was printed in the United States. So I don't know if that's original, but it seems like it would be. And this is like a survivor almost, you know. This record got played 20 times as opposed to most of these records. So last, why do I hate last? Last is a treatment that you can put on a record, and when you put the treatment on the record, it locks the surface down and doesn't allow any more dirt to get on it or stick to it, and it's supposed to make a record sound like it's new forever. Unfortunately, I mean, people weren't cleaning their records, weren't cleaning like mold release or anything off, or the dust and shit that came inside the record sleeves off. They were just cleaning with a brush. They weren't using liquid solvents, vacuum cleaning, any of the stuff that we're using nowadays that actually makes a huge difference. So they just put this last on and lock all the shit in, and that's why I hate it. And if you hit it with enough stuff, you can usually get rid of most of the last. It ain't easy though. I'm using like 5 passes of crap to get that stuff off. And the last record is Jazz West Coast. This is Jazz West Coast on the Pacific Jazz label. This thing's just trashed cover-wise, but the record is actually surprisingly good. Now, I don't remember exactly where I got this record. I know when I got this record. I got this record last year, well, this year probably in April. It was around the time my wife's father died, and that's why I don't quite remember where I got it. But I either got it in a store for $3 or I got it in an antique mall for $3. But I know I bought it because a friend of mine likes West Coast jazz. Now, this is an original with the deep groove, and it's in actually pretty nice condition. It's a mono pressing. Sadly, even though it's in nice condition, it had a bit of a grinder used to it, so it's a little crackly. But when you turn the stereo to the mono defeat switch, which only broadcasts sounds out of your receiver that are present in both channels, that's the beauty of the mono defeat switch. It will eliminate any static or noise or anything that's only coming from one of the 2 walls of the channel that the stylus is going through. So if the dirt's, it's good. I mean, that's why you want to use a mono defeat switch when listening to mono. It really can clean things up, as opposed, you know, when you get into some really higher end gear, typically the preamplifiers don't have a mono defeat switch, and you'd want to switch, you know, you'd then ideally be using a mono cart. So what can I say about this? This is an excellent record, actually. Not a huge, gigantic fan of West Coast jazz, but this is A-list. I mean, Chet Baker, Jerry Mulligan, Clifford Brown, Zoot Sims, Bud Shank, more Bud Shank, more Chet Baker with Jimmy Guifrey, I think it is, more Jerry Mulligan, Lorindo Almeida Quartet. So, you know, if you like the West Coast sound, check this out. you can buy this record really cheap. I see it sell the odd time for like 60 or 70 bucks on eBay, but typically you can buy this record for like 4 or 5 bucks. So if you like West Coast jazz, no Charlie Parker on here. And I recommend you check it out. And that's it for today. So this is a good sampler of West Coast jazz. When this came out, these tracks, the beauty of this stuff is, you know, back in the day when a sampler came out, it contained tracks that weren't on other records. It was alternate cuts or things like that. Whereas once the 70s and 80s rolled around, most of the samplers just contained things off of records. So this has like stuff that wasn't on records, but most of it is now surfaced as bonus tracks on the CD releases of the albums from these artists from Pacific Jazz at that period. But so I think that record probably had more value in the past because of the rarity of the cuts that were on it as opposed to nowadays. That's just another example of, you know, how value of things can be greatly affected by re-releases, in that instance on CD as opposed to vinyl. Spyro, Gyra, Carnival. It's a pretty good Spyro, Gyra record. Not their best. Led Zeppelin 1. This is like a VG, you know, honest grading. It's a VG vinyl and a near mint sleeve. It's just about the best Red Atlantic I've ever seen in my life. Just thrilled to get it. It's a copy you can actually listen to. And I'll put this up against any of the 180 and 200 gram pressings that were released a couple years ago on Led Zeppelin. This will trounce them. And Twang Bar King, Adrian Belew, solid record. If you're a Crimson Adrian Belew fan, I can definitely recommend that to you. So those are today's records. Thanks, crapitoutjim, Charlie, Parker, James, whoever. Did you do it with the pause? Did you put like a sheet of paper down and you walked across it with wet feet and where they landed were the numbers? Good numbers. Whoever's responsible for that in that household, good job. Cheers, everybody. Drink Cobblestone Stout. Go to the liquor store, buy it all. Let's put a mad run on it. Let's go viral. Anyway, have a great day, everybody. Keep the record spinning.